Now that you've scored the big interview, here are some tips to help you get the video and the sound bites you need to make a great package. As the photographer, the first thing you have to worry about is setting up the interview shot. You don't want to zoom in too tightly, and make sure there's enough headroom at the top of the screen and enough room for a CG at the bottom. The interviewee should be slightly off-center. Once the camera is set up, the interview can begin.
Hi Amy, how are you?
When you start the interview, always ask the person to say and spell their name on camera.
Could you please spell your first and last name for the camera?
Sure. A-M-Y-R-A-O, Amy Rao.
Okay.
During the interview, ask 4 to 5 open-ended questions.
Amy, I understand you've been doing some volunteer work lately. Can you tell me a little bit about that volunteer work and what you do? Tell me about one of your most memorable students, what you have found rewarding and challenging about teaching him or her.
And let the person answer the questions without interruption.
With all the students, I think the most challenging is that I'm not quite fluent in Hindi yet, so sometimes it's sort of like a game of charades in order to explain things. And also, some things in English, just certain idioms are really difficult to translate.
Before you end the interview, make sure you ask one last question.
Now, before we finish the interview, I just want to ask, is there anything you'd like to add?
This lets the person sum up their views.
I just want to say that the Indo-American Center has been a great opportunity and experience for me to gain a perspective into the life of recent immigrants, especially those from South Asia, and I hope to continue this work wherever I go next year.
Before we finish the interview, however, I need our photographer to get what we call a cutaway shot. It's just for editing purposes.
There are 3 cutaway shots: the 2 shot, the reverse 2 shot, and the reporter listening shot. The 2 shot shows a wider shot of the interviewee with the reporter. The interviewee should be talking. The reverse 2 shot shows a wide shot of the reporter and the back of the interviewee's head. When you set up the shot, make sure you can't see the interviewee's lips moving. Also, make sure the reporter is listening and not talking. Finally, don't cross the 180 line. Shoot the reverse 2 shot on the same side you started the interview. The final cutaway is the reporter listening shot. The reporter should have a neutral expression on her face as she listens to the person. While the photographer is shooting cutaways, continue making small talk with the other person. This makes the situation less awkward.
So tell me what you do outside of your volunteer work.
Once you shoot cutaways, you will have the appropriate elements to edit a setup shot that goes something like this. Amy Rao does volunteer work.
I found this place called the Indo-American Center. I went there and saw different aspects of the center. They have several programs for recent South Asian immigrants, and one of those was the literacy program, and I saw that there was a real need for literacy in this community.
Or you can edit 2 different parts of her interview to make it seem like one continuous soundbite.
One student in particular, her name is Sultana. She's a very conservative, religiously orthodox Muslim woman, and which is something I hadn't really dealt with before.
You can cover the apparent jump cut with the reverse 2 shot.
One student in particular, her name is Sultana. She's a very conservative, religiously orthodox Muslim woman, and which is something I hadn't really dealt with before.
Or the reporter listening shot.
One student in particular, her name is Sultana. She's a very conservative, religiously orthodox Muslim woman, and which is something I hadn't really dealt with before.
You never know when you will need a cutaway, so shoot them on every interview.